Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold, it's served with a smile at a family dinner. I mused, carefully arranging the crystal wine glasses around our Christmas Eve table. Each placement perfect, each detail meticulous, just as I had been for the past 23 years of marriage. The afternoon light filtered through the bay windows of our Victorian home, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood floors. Outside, the first snow of winter was beginning to fall, adding a picture-perfect quality to what would be our last family gathering, though only I knew that at the time. My name is Melissa, and at 46, I was about to discover that sometimes life's greatest revelations come disguised as its cruelest betrayals. "Mom, should I put out the good silverware?" Amanda, my eldest, called from the kitchen. At 21, she was already showing signs of inheriting my attention to detail, currently excelling in nursing school while juggling a part-time job at the local clinic. "Yes, dear. The ones from your grandmother." My voice remained steady, betraying none of the emotions churning beneath my carefully maintained facade. Those silver pieces had been a wedding gift from Thomas's mother, another family tradition about to be shattered. Brian, my 18-year-old son, slouched past with his phone in hand, pausing briefly to eye the elaborate table setting. "Isn't this a bit much for Christmas Eve? It's just us and Dad." If only he knew. Behind him, 15-year-old Christina adjusted the holiday wreath on our dining room wall, her movements precise and deliberate, another trait she'd inherited from me, along with her father's striking blue eyes. Those same eyes that had once made me believe in forever. The past few months had been a masterclass in pretense. Every family dinner, every casual conversation, every goodnight kiss, all while knowing what I knew. Thomas's increasing absences at family events had become a source of quiet tension. Just last month, he had missed Christina's piano recital, claiming an emergency meeting at the bank. The hurt in our youngest daughter's eyes had been almost unbearable. "Dad promised he'd be here tonight, right?" Christina's voice carried a note of uncertainty that made my heart ache. She had always been Daddy's little girl, the one most sensitive to the growing cracks in our family's foundation. "He'll be here," I assured her, remembering the text message I had carefully crafted this morning, family Christmas Eve dinner. 6 p.m. sharp. Important news to share. Amanda emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Mom, you seem different today. Is everything okay?" My eldest had always been perceptive. Perhaps she had noticed the subtle changes in my behavior since that rainy Tuesday afternoon 3 months ago, when I had accidentally discovered the truth about Thomas's late meetings. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just want tonight to be special." I adjusted a napkin that was already perfectly aligned. 3 years earlier, at Amanda's nursing school orientation, I had first noticed the subtle shift in Thomas's behavior. It wasn't anything dramatic, just small changes that only a wife of 2 decades would notice. The late-night texting he dismissed as work emergencies. The sudden interest in his appearance that went beyond his usual professional standards. The way his smile seemed to drift during family photos, as if his thoughts were elsewhere. But it was the changes in our home life that had truly begun to tear at the fabric of our family. Family game nights abandoned for important client meetings. Sunday brunches increasingly spent with just the children and me, Thomas's chair conspicuously empty. The growing distance between him and Brian, who had stopped asking his father for advice about college applications months ago. "Remember when Dad used to make those silly pancake faces every Sunday?" Brian's voice carried a mixture of nostalgia and resentment. "Can't remember the last time we all had breakfast together." "He's busy with work, honey," I replied automatically, the same excuse I had been making for months. The same lie I had told myself until the evidence became too overwhelming to ignore. Uncle Joseph had seen it coming. During our weekly lunches, which had become more frequent as his illness progressed, he had watched me with knowing eyes as I made excuses for Thomas's absences. "A family isn't just blood and marriage certificates, Melissa," he had said during our final lunch together. "It's daily choices. Small decisions that either strengthen or weaken the bonds between people." Now, as I placed the final wine glass at Thomas's usual spot at the head of the table, I couldn't help but remember Joseph's last words to me: "Sometimes the biggest threats to a family come from within." At the time, I had dismissed his concern as the melancholy musings of a dying man. But Joseph had always seen things others missed. Perhaps that's why he had made certain changes to his will in those final months, changes that would soon prove providential. The doorbell chimed, and my heart skipped a beat. Right on time, Thomas had always been punctual, even in this. "I'll get it," Christina called, her footsteps light against the hardwood floors. I smoothed my carefully chosen dress, a deep burgundy number that had been hanging in my closet for months, waiting for just this occasion. The same dress I had worn the day I discovered the truth about my husband's late meetings at the bank. Through the doorway, I could hear Thomas's voice, warm and professional as always. "Something smells wonderful. Anyone would think we're celebrating something special." Indeed we were, though not in the way he imagined. I touched the envelope hidden in my dress pocket, containing documents that would soon transform this picture-perfect family dinner into something else entirely. Uncle Joseph's final gift to me, not just his substantial inheritance, but the truth it had helped uncover. The weight of the envelope reminded me of all the family moments Thomas had missed in recent months: Christina's piano recital, Brian's college acceptance letter, Amanda's Dean's List ceremony. Each absence another crack in the foundation of our family, each excuse wearing thinner than the last. "Dad." Christina's voice carried a mixture of joy and relief as she welcomed him. "You're really here." The surprise in her tone spoke volumes about how rare these family gatherings had become. Once upon a time, her excitement would have been reserved for special guests, not her own father's arrival for a family dinner. "Of course I'm here, Princess." Thomas's voice carried that familiar warmth that had once made me feel safe. Now I recognized it for what it was, another performance in his carefully choreographed double life. I heard him greeting Brian with a forced casualness that barely masked the tension between them. My son's monosyllabic responses echoed through the hallway, each grunt a testament to months of accumulated disappointment. Amanda's greeting was polite but reserved. She had inherited my ability to maintain appearances, even when her heart was breaking. I wondered if she suspected what I knew, if her own experiences at the hospital had made her more attuned to the signs of a failing marriage. "Shall we begin?" I called out, my voice carrying through our home of 20 years. A home built on love, raised on lies, and about to witness its own form of justice. The crystal glasses caught the fading winter light, sending prisms dancing across the pristine tablecloth. Everything was perfect, exactly as it should be for what was coming next. 23 years of marriage, 3 children, countless memories, all about to be rewritten in a single evening. As I watched my family gather around the table, I felt an almost clinical detachment from the scene. The perfect wife, the devoted mother, preparing to shatter the illusion of our perfect family. Let the dinner begin. The tension in the dining room was palpable as Thomas took his seat at the head of the table. I watched him survey the elaborate spread with an appreciative eye, completely unaware of the storm about to break. "Wine, dear?" I asked, holding the bottle of his favorite Cabernet Sauvignon. The same wine we had shared on our 20th anniversary, back when I still believed in the sanctity of our vows. "Please." He smiled, that practiced smile that had once made my heart flutter but now only served to fuel my resolve. "Though I must say, this all seems rather formal for Christmas Eve. Special occasions deserve special treatment, don't you think?" I poured his wine with steady hands, noting how he checked his phone for the 3rd time since sitting down. "Dad, is something wrong at work?" Christina asked, her voice small and hesitant. "You keep checking your phone." "Just a potential client situation, Princess. Nothing to worry about." The lie rolled off his tongue with practiced ease. I wondered how many similar lies he had told over the months, the years. Brian snorted softly, earning a sharp look from his father. The tension between them had been building since Thomas missed Brian's college acceptance celebration. Potential client on Christmas Eve? Must be important. "Actually," I interjected smoothly, setting down the wine bottle, "I think it's time we discuss something important." I reached for the envelope in my pocket, feeling its weight, the weight of truth about to shatter our carefully maintained facade. "Mom." Amanda's voice carried a note of concern. She had always been perceptive, probably noticing the subtle shift in my demeanor. Before that, Thomas interrupted, straightening in his chair, "I have an announcement of my own." His tone carried an authority that had once commanded respect in our household. "I've been offered a significant promotion at the bank. Regional Director." The children's reactions were predictably mixed. Christina beamed with pride, while Brian remained skeptically silent. Amanda's eyes darted between her father and me, sensing the undercurrent of tension. "Congratulations," I said softly, laying the envelope on the table. "When does this promotion take effect?" "January 1st. He reached for his wine glass, a slight tremor in his hand betraying his nervousness. "It will mean some changes for us." "Changes?" Christina's voice quavered. "Yes, princess. The position is in the downtown office. I'll need to relocate closer to." "Relocate?" Brian interrupted, his fork clattering against his plate. "You mean leave us?" "It's not like that," Thomas assured quickly. "It's a temporary arrangement until." "Until what, Thomas?" I picked up the envelope, turning it slowly in my hands. "Until you've established yourself with Catherine?" The silence that followed was deafening. Thomas's face drained of color as he stared at me, his wine glass frozen halfway to his lips. "Who's Catherine?" Amanda asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "Dad." Christina's voice cracked. "Melissa, this isn't the time or place." Thomas began, but I cut him off by sliding a photograph across the table. It showed him and Catherine, his 23-year-old bank teller, entering a downtown hotel, his hand intimately placed on her lower back. "When would be a better time, Thomas? After you've moved in with her? After you've started your new life while maintaining the fiction of a devoted family man?" Brian stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "I knew it. I fucking knew it." "Language, Brian," Thomas admonished automatically, earning a bitter laugh from our son. "Really, Dad? That's what you're concerned about right now?" Amanda reached for her sister's hand as Christina began to cry silently. The sound of her muffled sobs punctuated the heavy atmosphere. "How long?" Amanda's question cut through the tension like a knife. 6 months, I answered before Thomas could speak. "Though the emotional affair started long before that, didn't it, Thomas? Around the time you hired her." He set down his wine glass with exaggerated care. "This isn't how I wanted to tell you all. I was going to wait until after the holidays." "Like you waited until after Christina's piano recital? After Brian's college acceptance? After every family event you've missed in the past year?" My voice remained steady, each word calculated to strike home. "You don't understand," he began, but I wasn't finished. "Oh, I understand perfectly. I understand that while I was raising our children, managing our home, and supporting your career, you were planning your escape with a woman barely older than our daughter." "Catherine understands me," he declared, a flash of defiance crossing his face. "She sees me for who I really am." "And who is that, Thomas? A man who betrays his family? Who forges his wife's signature on loan documents?" His defiance turned to shock. "What are you talking about?" I opened the envelope, removing a stack of papers. "Uncle Joseph didn't just leave me his inheritance, Thomas. He left me the truth about your financial dealings." "Uncle Joe?" Christina whispered, looking between us with tear-stained cheeks. "Yes, sweetheart. Your Uncle Joe knew something wasn't right. He hired investigators before he died. They found everything: the fraudulent loans, the embezzled client funds, the offshore accounts." Thomas's face had turned ashen. "You're bluffing. The same way you were bluffing about the promotion?" I spread the documents on the table. "There is no regional director position, is there? Just like there was no emergency meeting the night of Christina's recital. You were with Catherine, planning your new life with my money." "Our money," he corrected automatically. "No, Thomas. My money. The money you stole by forging my signature. The money you've been funneling to secret accounts to fund your affair." Brian picked up one of the documents, his eyes widening as he read. "Dad, you didn't." "It's not what it looks like," Thomas protested, but his voice had lost its authority. "Really?" I pulled out another document. "Because it looks like you've been systematically stealing from our family for months. Planning your escape while pretending to be the devoted husband and father." I was going to pay it back, he insisted. Once Catherine and I. Once you what? Started your new life? Left us with nothing. I laughed, a sound devoid of humor. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Mom, Amanda interjected, her medical training evident in her calm demeanor. What exactly did Uncle Joe's investigators find? Everything. I began laying out documents one by one. Bank statements showing regular transfers to an account in Catherine's name. Hotel receipts. Restaurant bills. A lease agreement for a luxury apartment downtown, paid for with forged loans in my name. Christina's sobs had turned to hiccups. Brian stood behind her chair, his hands gripping the backrest so hard his knuckles had turned white. But that's not all, is it, Thomas? I continued, my voice taking on an edge of steel. Tell them about the client funds you've been misappropriating. Tell them about the audit that's coming in January, the real reason for your sudden need to relocate. You're making this sound worse than it is, he protested weakly. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've not only betrayed your family emotionally, but you've also committed fraud that could send you to prison. The word prison hung in the air like a thundercloud. Christina gasped, Amanda's professional calm finally cracked, and Brian swore under his breath. You wouldn't, Thomas said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Think about the children. I am thinking about the children. I'm thinking about how you were planning to abandon them, leave them to deal with the financial mess you've created. That's not true. Catherine and I were going to. Going to what? Support them with your entry-level bank salary? Or was Catherine planning to share her teller's wages? The mention of Catherine's name again seemed to break something in Christina. I hate you, she screamed at her father, years of disappointment finally erupting. I hate you and your stupid girlfriend. Princess, please. Thomas reached for her, but she recoiled. Don't call me that. Don't ever call me that again. The family dinner had devolved into exactly the scene Thomas had always feared, raw emotions, ugly truths, the carefully maintained facade of perfect family life shattered beyond repair. There's more, I said quietly, pulling out a final document. Uncle Joe left me something else besides the evidence of your crimes. Thomas's eyes fixed on the paper in my hand, recognition slowly dawning on his face. The house deed. Among other things. His entire estate, in fact. All $3.5 million of it. As separate property, not marital assets. The implications took a moment to sink in. When they did, Thomas slumped in his chair, the last vestiges of his authority crumbling. So you see, darling, I continued, my voice dripping with false sweetness, while you were planning your escape with Catherine, Uncle Joe was ensuring you wouldn't leave us destitute. Mom, Amanda spoke up, her medical training evident in her analytical tone, what happens now? I looked at my children, Amanda's controlled concern, Brian's simmering anger, Christina's tear-stained face, and felt a surge of protective love. Now, I said, gathering the documents back into the envelope, your father has a choice to make. He can either face the consequences of his actions legally, or we can handle this privately, with conditions. Conditions? Thomas's voice had lost all its previous confidence. Yes, dear. Conditions. Because while you were busy destroying our family, I was busy saving it. The Christmas tree lights twinkled in the corner, casting colorful shadows across our ruined family dinner. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering our neighborhood in a deceptive blanket of peace and tranquility. Inside, our family's fate hung in the balance, waiting for Thomas's response to my carefully orchestrated revelation. The perfect family Christmas was shattered, but from its ruins, something else was emerging, the truth, in all its ugly, necessary glory. The silence that followed my ultimatum was broken by the sudden chime of Thomas's phone. The screen lit up, displaying a name we all could see, Catherine. Answer it, I said quietly. Put it on speaker. Let's all hear what your young girlfriend has to say on Christmas Eve. Thomas's hand trembled as he reached for the phone. Before he could respond, Christina grabbed it, her tear-stained face contorted with anger. Hello, Catherine? Her voice cracked with emotion. This is Christina, Thomas's daughter. You know, the one whose piano recital he missed to be with you. Christina. Thomas lunged for the phone, but Brian stepped between them, his tall frame a protective barrier. Let her speak, Dad, our son growled. You owe her that much. On the other end of the line, Catherine's voice was young, uncertain. I'm sorry, I was just trying to reach Thomas. Well, you've reached his family instead, Christina continued, years of hurt pouring out. The family he's been lying to. The family he was going to abandon for you. Are you happy now? Are you happy knowing you've helped destroy everything? I didn't. Thomas said he was separated. Catherine's voice trailed off. Separated. Amanda's laugh was bitter. Is that what he told you? That he was separated from the wife who's been raising his children, managing his home, supporting his career for 23 years? Thomas slumped in his chair, the weight of his lies crushing him. Please, let me explain. Explain what, Dad? Brian's voice was razor sharp. How you were going to dump us all for someone younger than Amanda. How you stole Mom's money to fund your little romance. It wasn't like that, Catherine's voice came through the speaker, weaker now. He said he would take care of everything. With stolen money, I interjected calmly. Money he obtained by forging my signature. Money he embezzled from his clients. Are you ready to be an accessory to fraud, Catherine? The silence on the other end was deafening. I need to go, Catherine finally stammered. The line went dead. Christina threw the phone at her father. It bounced off his chest and clattered to the table. I hope she was worth it, Dad. I hope destroying your family was worth it. Princess. Thomas reached for her, but she jerked away. I told you not to call me that. She was screaming now, years of suppressed pain erupting. You don't get to act like a loving father anymore. You lost that right when you chose her over us. Amanda moved to comfort her sister, but Christina shrugged her off. And you know what the worst part is? I kept making excuses for you. When you missed my recital, I told everyone you had an important meeting. When you forgot my birthday last month, I pretended it didn't matter. I defended you to my friends when they noticed how absent you were. Her words seemed to physically pain Thomas, each accusation landing like a blow. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. Christina's voice broke. You hurt all of us. And for what? For some woman who's barely older than your own daughter. Christina, please. Thomas's plea was cut short by Brian's harsh laugh. Don't bother, Dad. Save your excuses for your girlfriend. Or maybe for the police when they investigate your fraud. No one's going to the police, I interrupted softly. Not if your father makes the right choice now. All eyes turned to me. I pulled out another document from my envelope. These are the terms, Thomas. You sign over all rights to the house. You resign from the bank, citing personal reasons, not waiting for the audit to expose your crimes. You agree to go to therapy with the children, if and when they're ready. And you disappear from our lives until they decide they want contact. You can't do this, he protested weakly. They're my children too. Children you were planning to abandon, Amanda pointed out, her medical training evident in her clinical tone. Children whose futures you were willing to jeopardize for your midlife crisis. It wasn't a crisis. Thomas snapped. Catherine and I are in love. The words hung in the air like poison. Christina made a small, wounded sound and fled the room. Amanda followed, shooting her father a look of pure disgust. Love? Brian's voice was dangerously quiet. You want to talk about love, Dad? How about Mom's love, supporting you, believing in you, building a life with you? How about our love, trusting you, looking up to you, making excuses for you? Thomas seemed to shrink under his son's words. Brian, son. Don't call me that. You lost that right too. I watched the scene unfold, feeling an odd sense of detachment. The perfect family dinner I had planned had transformed into something raw and painful, but necessary. Like lancing a wound to let the poison out. The papers are ready, I said, sliding them across the table. Sign them now, or I call the police and report the fraud. Your choice, Thomas. He stared at the documents, his hand shaking as he reached for them. You've thought of everything, haven't you? I learned from the best. All those years watching you plan and scheme, I picked up a few tricks. The sound of Christina's sobs echoed from upstairs, punctuated by Amanda's soothing murmurs. Brian stood rigid, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. Did you ever love us? He asked suddenly, his voice small and young. Or were we just part of your perfect family facade? Thomas looked up, tears in his eyes. Of course I loved you. I still love you. No, Brian shook his head. Love doesn't do this. Love doesn't destroy everything it touches. I watched my son, no longer the little boy who had idolized his father, but a young man facing the harsh realities of adult betrayal. The transformation hurt to witness, but it was necessary. Sign the papers, Thomas, I said quietly. Give them at least this much, a clean break, a chance to heal. The scratch of his pen on paper seemed unnaturally loud in the heavy silence. With each signature, another piece of our family's past crumbled away, making room for something new to emerge from the ruins. When he finished, Thomas stood slowly, looking lost in his own home. What do I tell Catherine? Tell her whatever you want, I replied. But know this, if you try to contest these agreements, if you try to hurt our children any more than you already have, everything goes to the police. Everything. He nodded, defeated. At the door, he paused. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen, Brian said from behind me. And now you have to live with it. Just like we do. The door closed behind Thomas with a soft click, so incongruously gentle for such a momentous ending. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering his footprints almost as quickly as he made them. Upstairs, Christina's sobs had quieted. The house felt different already, emptier, but somehow cleaner, as if a festering wound had finally been cleaned out. Mom. Brian's voice was uncertain. What happens now? I turned to my son, seeing not the angry young man of moments ago, but the scared child underneath. Now we heal. Together. I should check on Christina, Brian said, heading for the stairs. We'll all go, I replied, gathering strength for what came next. The hard part wasn't over, it was just beginning. But at least now we could face it honestly, without the weight of lies and pretense. Our perfect family was shattered, but maybe something stronger could grow from the pieces. Something real. 6 months after that fateful Christmas Eve, I sat in my elegant new home office, reading an email that brought a satisfied smile to my face. The bank's internal investigation had finally concluded, and Thomas's world was crashing down spectacularly. Mom. Brian burst into the room, his laptop open. You need to see this. It's all over social media. The video showed Thomas being escorted out of the bank's main branch by security, his personal belongings in a cardboard box. Catherine could be seen in the background, tears streaming down her face as her own termination was processed. The video, posted by a gleeful bank customer, had gone viral within hours. The consequences had been swift and merciless. Thomas's fraud had been exposed not just to the bank, but to every financial institution in the region. His professional licenses were revoked, and criminal charges were pending. The man who once commanded boardrooms was now living in a rundown motel on the outskirts of town, his credit cards cancelled, his accounts frozen. Catherine's fall had been equally spectacular. The ambitious young woman who thought she'd secured a wealthy older man found herself blacklisted from the banking industry. Her Instagram influencer dreams shattered as her follower count plummeted, her carefully curated image now tagged with #homewrecker and #fraudaccomplice. The last we'd heard, Thomas was working as a night shift cashier at a gas station, while Catherine had moved back in with her parents, her designer wardrobe sold on consignment to pay legal fees. Their fairy tale romance had dissolved into bitter recriminations and public screaming matches outside discount grocery stores. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Martha, whose executive position at Thomas's former bank had proven unexpectedly useful. Your ex just got denied for a studio apartment rental. Background check flagged him as a fraud risk. Catherine was seen moving her things out in garbage bags yesterday. Guess the love nest is officially closed. Local gossip had them sleeping in their separate cars, Catherine waitressing at a truck stop diner while Thomas begged for his old job back at every bank in town. Their names had become cautionary tales in banking circles, whispered warnings about the price of betrayal. But we had risen from the ashes of their betrayal like phoenixes. Uncle Joseph's inheritance had grown into a substantial investment portfolio under my management. Our new home, in the city's most prestigious neighborhood, stood as a testament to our triumph. Mom, Christina touched my arm, her therapy-strengthened confidence shining. The garden party's about to start. I followed her to our backyard, where Amanda was completing her medical residency celebration. The garden was filled with respected doctors, future colleagues, and family friends, all of whom had chosen our side in the divorce. The same social circle that had once been Thomas's power base now welcomed us as survivors, as victors. Brian, home from his prestigious college program, was discussing his internship offers with several interested executives. His father's shadow no longer darkened his future, instead, Thomas's downfall had become a cautionary tale he used in business ethics discussions. Martha arrived fashionably late, bringing more delicious updates. "Your ex tried to crash Amanda's graduation ceremony last week," she whispered with sisterly satisfaction. Security removed him when they found him sleeping in his car in the hospital parking lot. Catherine was there too, trying to flirt with one of the attending physicians. They both got escorted out. Later that evening, as I sat in my private study overlooking the city lights, Martha sent one final text. Thomas and Catherine had been arrested for trying to scam elderly bank customers in a desperate get-rich-quick scheme. Their mugshots would be in tomorrow's paper, the final nail in the coffin of their reputations. Mom. Christina appeared at my door. "We're all going out to celebrate Amanda's news. She just got offered the chief resident position." I smiled, closing my laptop on their booking photos. They no longer mattered. We had won, not just survived, but triumphed. While they struggled in their roach-infested apartments, we flourished in luxury. The perfect family they tried to destroy had become something better, an unshakable unit built on truth. That, I realized as I joined my children and sister for our celebration, was the sweetest revenge of all, living extraordinarily well while they lost everything. After all, revenge was best served from the top of the world, looking down at those who'd tried to keep you down.